DogWorks Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dog Works. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com.
Start your day tomorrow with The Daily Dog with Michelle Forto, the morning podcast on DogWorks Radio. Apple Podcast reviewer Patty Christensen calls it funny, smart, and filled with all the info I want to know about dogs. I love this show. Wake up with The Daily Dog. Available on DogWorks Radio on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your shows.
Radio Free Palmer 89.5 KVRF presents Mushing Radio, hosted by Robert Forto. Mushing Radio is about dog-powered sports, living in the Great White North, and mushing. Visit our website at mushingradio.com. Here is your host, Robert Forto.
Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Robert Forto, and you're listening to Mushing Radio here on KVRF 89.7 in the Mat-Su Valley. RadioFreePalmer.org is our live streaming site, and you can find us over on social media at DogWorks Radio, as well as on dogworksradio.com. I am joined today by my co-host calling in from California. Alex, how's it going?
Going great, Robert. I'm very, very excited for this show. It's one we've been looking forward to for a while.
Likewise, tonight we have Joar Leifseth Ulsom calling in. He is the current Iditarod champion for 2018. He's calling in from Willow, Alaska. Joar, how's it going?
It's going good. How about you?
I am well, thank you. Would you do us a favor and introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and what you're all about, please.
Well, I'm from Norway. I moved over here about 7 years ago. I've been doing long-distance races here in Alaska and Canada and Russia. I've done the Yukon Crest. I've been over in Chukotka a few times and done the Nadezhda Hope race, and I've done the Iditarod 6 times now. So that's pretty much what I've been doing here. Just running a lot of dogs.
Of course. Can you tell us how you got started in mushing? Was this a family thing? Did you pick it up later in life, or what was happening?
Yeah, it never really was a family thing. I didn't have any dogs growing up on a young age there, but I got a little older. I got a dog, and I started borrowing a neighbor's dog and ski joring, and it kind of just built up slowly. I got 2 dogs and 4 dogs and 6 dogs, and then you had to have a sled and that whole story. But yeah, mostly I got into dogs because I was doing a lot of hiking and fishing and a lot of long or relatively long trips in the mountains where it was good to bring some dogs.
And how old were you when you got started, Joar?
Well, I got starting on my own kennel in 2008, I think. That's when I had I think I had 16 dogs.
Alex?
One thing that we had read about, and that I'm sort of curious how this works for you is, and tell me if I've got these facts wrong, because this is just stuff that I've read. My understanding is that you are here in Alaska under a sportsman's visa or some sort of sports competition visa, but that you're not officially allowed to earn money while you're in the U.S. So you are working with a nonprofit so that the winnings that you get from your competitions go to the nonprofit. Is that correct?
Yeah, sounds like you got it pretty down there.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, so that's certainly kind of an unusual situation, I think. Is that something that, did you know that was going to happen coming over here, or was that just the only way that you could get over here to live in Alaska and run dogs and run Iditarod?
No, it's kind of it's been the whole reason, really. It's how it's been all possible for me to come here. So there's nothing negative about it at all. It's what it's what makes me be able to do her and race and have this as a full-time job. So I'm super happy about that.
So you're up here in Willow, and I know that you were affected by the sockeye fire a few years ago, as a lot of us were up here in this small community. Can you tell us about that and how that sort of affected your operation? That your sled dog operation. Did you lose your guys' equipment home and that sort of thing? Can you kind of give us a rundown of what was happening 3 years ago here in town?
Yeah, we had that big fire coming through, and I was actually in Norway when it happened. So my girlfriend and Peter that was staying there at the property that kind of had to evacuate over 100 dogs, 3 different kennels. So I was sitting home in Norway watching it all, being very nervous about what was going on. So it was hard being far away, knowing I couldn't do anything to help. But all the animals were saved, and we did lose some things there on the property. The main house burned down, but we didn't live in that, and the sleds and some gear and handler cabin and stuff like that. But yeah, most importantly, we didn't. All the dogs, all the people, everything was good. So, and we're pretty much back to normal now here. We got most of everything rebuilt, and it's looking very good.
Well, that's a blessing.
I was wondering, you, I think, must have been a teenager or in your early teens or right around there when Robert Sorley and the sort of original Iditarod Team Norway was so successful earlier in the early 2000s. Were you aware of them growing up in Norway, or did you sort of discover that later as you kind of discovered more about mushing?
No, I guess I started following Team Norway and Robert and that whole crew. The first year he came over in 2002, and then it just got more and more. And the other years I followed very closely. But at that time, I didn't have any dogs of my own.
Was that a big deal in Norway for Robert Sorley to win Iditarod and for Team Norway to be so dominant early in the 2000s?
Oh, it was huge. The mushing community in Norway, it's big, and we also have a lot of history in Alaska. So when Robert and Ketil and Bjørnar came over and did so well, people were really impressed and they were following it, and yeah, it was. They had a fun few years when they were over here.
So, Joar, before we jump in and start talking about current history and Iditarod and whatnot, I was listening to your guys' talk last weekend at the ISRA conference, and in particular to Millie's talk and about what she does with her expeditions and those absolutely wonderful-looking dogs that she had pictures of. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that? How you've been involved with that?
Well, that's how I came over here to Alaska the first time, was to go on a trip with Milla and her big polar huskies up the coast of Alaska. We were going to go from Nome up to Kaktovik, and we ended up going over to Russia instead. But after that, we did go on some part on the trip with her big dogs, and in the years past, we've gone on shorter trips, maybe between 1 and 2 weeks with her dogs. We haven't really got to go out on a longer trip yet, but hopefully that's going to come here pretty soon.
Right, for sure. Alex?
You have had a really remarkable career so far in terms of the Iditarod, and all around, but definitely in terms of Iditarod, with having being Rookie of the Year in 2013 and having 6 straight top 10 finishes and then winning the race this year. Is there anything that you can tell our listeners about how you prepared to run your initial Iditarod and what you learned in that race that let you be so successful in the races since then?
Well, I think for the first thing, I got a hold of some really good dogs. I think I got a bunch of dogs from Ketil Reitan back in Norway, and another friend of mine was Petter Arnesen, and Ketil only bred dogs from kennels that had won a Detroit at least twice. So that was my whole starting point. I got started out with proven good dogs that had a good pedigree, and they had done really well in races. And I started training them in Norway and brought them over here and ran the Yukon Crest, and that was the first long race I ever done. So I did learn a lot running in the Yukon Crest, and I learned a lot about the team and how to run dogs, how to feed dogs, and the next year in 2013 is when I did the Detroit. And basically, I think we just looked at what the top three had been doing in the years past, and I set up my training to where I thought I could train up a dog team that could do that, and just put in a lot of work and put in a lot of miles, and went out and tried to follow a race plan that I had laminated in my sled bag.
That's pretty interesting there. So I know you had said you had done an expedition or two beforehand, but did you have any type of mentorship or somebody that was sort of, took you under their wing, so to speak, or did you just sort of rock and roll on your own?
I would say I've had a lot of people before I came over here back in Norway that helped me and mentored me, but once I got over here, we rented a house from Russ Bybee, and he had done the quest, and we drove several times, so we got a lot of good advice from him. And just other neighbors here in Willow was really helpful, and Jake Berkovich. It was, I felt pretty welcome. A lot of people had a lot of questions about anything, about a Detroit and how to run it, and just all the normal rookie stuff, and anyone I asked, they were really glad to help.
Did you find that the race started getting a little bit easier? I mean, I know that it's never easy to run a 1,000-mile race, but did you find that after your first year that the things that you had learned in that race made it easier for your subsequent races?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Just getting out there and seeing the trail, and I think every time you go on a long race with your dog team, you learn a lot of new things, and you improve. But each year, you figure out, tweak things a little bit different, and change your schedule, change your feeding maybe. So yeah, I do feel it's getting easier and easier. We have had some tough years, but to prepare for a race and all that, it's going a lot smoother now.
So let's talk a little bit about your dogs. You talked about the foundation stock for your breeding program and the dogs that you acquired as you were starting out. Can you tell us about how many you have now? Maybe where they're at in their lifestyle. How old they are. Do you have pups coming up? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I got about 55 dogs in the kennel now. Maybe just under 10 retired ones, and probably the youngest one are just about a year old now. And I think I got close to 40 dogs, 38, 40 dogs that's going to be in full training for this coming season. So I have a pretty good pool. I got about 23-year-olds that's going to be fighting a spot on the team here. So it looks very promising.
Right, for sure. Alex? One of the rule changes for 2019 is going to be decreasing the number of dogs from 16 to 14. How does that affect your race plan, or are you pretty much going to stick with what you were going to do, but just have 2 fewer dogs?
Yeah, I don't know yet. Man, it's hard to say if it's going to affect me very much. We all have to start with 14 this year. I really enjoyed running a team of 16 dogs, and I think that's been the history of Detroit for so long, and I think that's what's special about the race as well. So personally, I think, or I hope that we'll go back to 16 dogs. I guess we'll try it out this year and see what they come up, what kind of thoughts they have after a race.
So if we can, let's talk a little bit about last year's race. And, of course, you went on to win that race, and that was your first Iditarod win. So can you sort of lay out the race for us? When did you finally find out that, yep, you're in the lead here, you're going to rock and roll, you're going to be the first one to Nome? What was going through your mind sort of at that point where you knew you were going to be the next Iditarod winner?
I guess I didn't know that until I was pretty close to Nome, but just over the years you've seen different things happen there. But once I came into Koyuk there and had an hour lead on Nick, I figured I had a very good chance. And once I realized I had a strong enough team to go through Elim, and I made it all the way to White Mountain, no problem. So that was a good feeling. It was building up, but once we got closer to Nome there, you get a pretty good feeling if you're gonna pull it off or not. And I had a pretty good lead leaving White Mountain there, so even Nick has a fast dog team. I think it wasn't very realistic. Something would have had to happen to me for him to catch me. But it was a very, really a lot of ups and downs in the whole race, I think, for all the teams. But it was challenging. It was soft trail. It was slow going, and just a little different than we were used to the last few years.
You have always been an extremely competitive musher, at least in terms of all of your Iditarod runs. Did you do anything different this year, thinking that you could go all of the way and win, or did you just basically have your race plan and then stick to your race plan, even when it became clear that you could challenge and could go all the way and win?
I did have a same thing this year with the laminated race plan. It says exactly how long I'm supposed to stop in each checkpoint or on a trail, and it makes it easy for me to follow it. So unless something happens out on the trail where I think dogs need more or less rest, then I pretty much try to stay with that plan. But I think when we started the training season for last year, we kind of decided just to put everything we had into it, and we probably more money than we had, and went off and trained different places and not holding back. All the years it's been maybe like, no, I can't drive up there to train. It's going to be that much in money and gas and blah blah blah. But this year we kind of just gave it all and hoped that it would pay off.
And it did pay off for sure. So let's talk a little bit about that if we can. I live in Willow here as well, and the last few years training has been tough with the lack of snow or the late snow or even our ice storms that we get midwinter. And I know a lot of the competitive teams have had to drive up north, whether to the Denali Highway or pretty much chase the snow. And you had mentioned that this was really the year that you kind of bit the bullet and threw money to the wind to do that. When did you find out that this was part of the strategy and this was something that you had to do in order to be successful?
Well, I think I've known that all the time. We get these spells different times during the winter where you can either sit at home and wait for it to get better, or you can go out and travel. And as soon as you have some of your competitors go out there and doing it, you better get out there too. So I kind of knew that all the time, that you had to go after it hard. But we decided to be in a position this year where we was just gonna give it all.
I'm
Right.
wondering if you feel like you like things have changed for you since you won the race a few months ago. Is it gotten easier in terms of things like sponsors or getting other things that you need to be competitive at the highest level, or is it just that you're sort of continuing with the program that you had all along?
Yeah, I can't say yet that things are a lot easier now, but we had a pretty good program, and we're seems like we're continuing on that road, and not much has changed really. It's been done a lot of great fun things and all that, so that's been a lot of fun.
Can you tell us about that? Some of the things that maybe I don't want to say the fame that comes from Iditarod, but what have you taken advantage of being sort of the Iditarod winner this year?
Well, I had that thing at Alaska Mint where I had a own silver coin with my face on it and the 2 lead dogs. That was a pretty neat experience, and we've been selling them on our website, so that's been a lot of fun. And I went down to Seattle and threw the first pitch for the Mariners, which I have no experience with baseball. I told the guys I'd thrown a few snowballs. so that was totally new.
Cool.
Excellent.
Alex?
Do you have any interesting trail stories from this last year that were just great things or challenging things that happened to you that you haven't had a chance to really talk about yet?
No, I don't think so. I'm out there a lot on the trail, see a lot of neat stuff, but I can't think of anything really special that's happened. Maybe when I ran the Northern Lights a few years ago and we had that big earthquake, I was out on the river, and that was kind of creepy. All the river ice was starting to crack up, and it was noisy, and the dogs didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know what was going on, and water was shooting up through the cracks. And
was it hard to get them settled again after that earthquake?
No, pretty much as soon as it stopped, the ice stopped cracking and all that, they were back to normal.
So, I have a question about sort of the next season's plans, or what sort of that race plan that you've developed. A lot of Iditarod competitors sign up and do a lot of the mid-distance races to prepare to run Iditarod or Yukon Quest. Are you one that puts that as part of your race plan, or do you pull away from that a little bit and just concentrate on your own training?
Yeah, I guess you got both sides. Some do a lot of races to prepare, and some people don't do any races and they just run that Iditarod or whatever main focus they do have. But last year I just did the Kuskokwim and Iditarod, and the Kuskokwim is a really awesome race that I look forward to going to every year. It's always really challenging and a lack of snow normally, and you never know what you're gonna meet out there. But this year I have a lot of dogs in training, so I might decide to do some of these other mid-distance races.
I wanted to ask if you have any dogs who are, yearlings or dogs that you're just starting to work with who you think are going to be really great and important dogs for your team over the next few years.
I do, yeah. I've done quite a few breedings after my main dog Jesus, and I have a lot of really good offsprings coming up after him that I'm excited to run, and I had some of them on my team this year, and it's just going to be more and more of them on my team, I think. So that's the type of dog I really like running, and I got a whole kennel full of awesome, promising dogs, so it looks good for many years to come.
That's fantastic.
That is fantastic. And we talk a lot about here on the show sort of the cycles of these dogs and sort of where they hit their prime at that 3 to 7 year mark, wherever that is in a person's training schedule. Alex had talked about at the top that visa that you're here. Is that a limited thing? Do you know that you have to go back at some point? And if so, is there a way to renew that?
You can maximum have that for 10 years. So I'm good now until 2021, and then I can't get that visa anymore. So unless I've come up with something smart at that point, I gotta go back to Norway.
And do you have to? Is that for good, or can you go for a year or two back home and then come back to run the race, maybe just as a competitor? How does that work? Do you know?
Yeah, you can come back and run the race as long as you can't stay here over 3 months, I think.
3 months. Okay. Alex?
What is it like for you when you go back to Norway after spending so much time in Alaska now? Are you starting to think of Alaska as more of your home, or do you still come back to Norway and feel like, oh yeah, this is where I'm from, this is where my heart is?
Yeah, well, I think that's probably how anyone has it. That's where they grew up. That's where they have their heart, and had a lot of great years in Norway, and it's a beautiful country, and I got my family there, and that's the main. Family and friends is the main reason how I go back and spend a little bit of time there. But it's getting less and less, and I really enjoy living here in Alaska and running the races, and I have a perfect setup here, and yeah, I'm not thinking about going back anytime soon if I don't have to.
So
when you go back, do they view you as sort of a hero for having won Iditarod, or is it just that yes, you went over to Alaska to race and you raced and did really well?
No, I think definitely the mushers over there. Most of them dream about coming over here, and a lot of them already have been here. But that's kind of the big dream for every long distance musher in Norway, is to come over here and race at Iditarod. So I think most of them has been following me pretty closely, and they see it's possible now, with Robert doing it and me doing it. Even now I'm living here, it's possible to come over and race.
So, Joar, we have just a couple of minutes left. I have one final question, and then I'm sure Alex can close it out for us. Just yesterday was the sign-ups for the 2019 race, and I know you were there at the sign-up picnic, and you're ready to go. What do you think about this upcoming year? Are you doing anything different? I know a lot of mushers hold things pretty close to the vest, and they don't like to tell their strategies and stuff, but are you just going to kind of just do what you've always done, or do you have something up your sleeve?
No, I don't have much up my sleeve. I did log last training season pretty accurate. I have it down to every single dog, how many miles it did, how long we trained, what we did, and all that. So I have a pretty good feeling about what kind of training we're gonna do. But yeah, it's a lot of beautiful dog teams out there that's gonna be racing next year. So it's just, I think we're gonna have a lot of fun, I think.
I hope so. It's always fun to watch.
A lot of people are putting a lot of work into this now, and it's beautiful seeing a well-trained dog team. And even if you get beat, you see that someone has done something better than you, and you can go home and improve even more.
Right. Alex, final question?
Well, first, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. And I have to say, as a fan, it's been just really wonderful watching you over the years, and particularly in the 2018 race. I'm wondering, now that you are an Iditarod champion, would you have any advice to people who are just starting out in the sport, or people who are just forming kennels and starting to compete in races and lining up their Iditarod qualifiers. What would you say to someone like that who's looking to you, now as a champion in the sport?
Well, I think people should get a hold of somebody that's been doing good in the sport and get some advice, and they can talk over training and feeding and all that, and then just jump in it, get out there and train and try and race and be good to your dogs and take good care of them, and good things will happen. So, but yeah, get a hold of somebody that knows a little more than you do at that point.
Excellent.
Most of us are pretty nice guys, A lot of us would be happy to help anybody.
Right, for sure. And that's what's good about the community. There is a lot of that helping out and mentorship that I think a lot of the newcomers really need, because if you just go out there and try to do it on your own, you can face a heck of a lot of difficulties for sure. How can folks follow you along? Do you have a website? Are you on Facebook? What's the best way for fans to follow your journey on the trail?
Yeah, I got a Facebook page, Joar Racing Sled Dogs, I think it's called, and racingberingia.com. So we do updates on there. So mostly
Excellent.
on Facebook, just search for my name and you'll probably find the sport page.
Okay. Joar Leifseth Ulsom is our guest tonight. He is the 2018 Iditarod champion, and he signed up to run in 2019. Check him out on Facebook as well as on his website. We'll put links in the show notes. Joar, it was my pleasure. Have a good evening, okay?
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
On behalf of my co-host and guest tonight, this is Robert Forto for Mushing Radio. We will see you guys next time. Goodbye. All right, Joar, thank you very much. As I said, I'll shoot you over the links and stuff when they're available, okay?
Perfect.
All right, take care and have a good season.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Did you know that Alaska Dog Works trains service dogs for those in need throughout North America? Each and every service dog that is trained through the Lead Dog Service Dog Program and Michelle Forto and her team has an individual training plan. We train for autistic, mobility, psychiatric, and PTSD for our soldiers for service work. If you know of someone that may need a service dog, please take a moment and check out Alaska Dog Works on social media and at alaskadogworks.com.
If you like our podcast, there are a few things you can do. You can take a couple of minutes and go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also check out all of our DogWorks Radio sponsors and promotions in our show notes. Another thing you can do is go over to Facebook, like our Facebook page, and one last thing, please tell all of your friends by spreading the word about DogWorks Radio. Thank you so much for listening to us. We really appreciate you.
DogWorks Radio is produced by Robert Forto. Logo art by Angry Squirrel Studios. DogWorks Radio is produced in conjunction with KVRF 89.7 in Palmer, Alaska.
For dog training advice, you can contact Alaska Dog Works at 907-841-1686 or visit their website at alaskadogworks.com. If you have a show idea or would like to be a guest, please contact us by sending an email to live@dogworksradio.com.